Hello and welcome to another episode of Living in Victory Every Day. Once again, I thank you for taking out the time to tune into this episode. As usual, I am always excited with each one of my guests that I bring on. It's because I really believe that each one of us has a testimony that is able to just encourage and uplift others. So today, my special guest is Jacqueline Stevens. I refer to her as Jackie. So as we go through this interview, I'll be referring to her as Jackie. So welcome to Live, Jackie. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you so much, Gwen, for inviting me on. I am super excited to be here today with you. My name is Jackie again, and I am a mom, and I'm a grandmom. I am actually mom to one of my wonderful grandchildren, Micah, and I've been married for 25 years. And I'm a Christian. I'm a believer. I love the Lord. Professionally, I am a coach, a mentor, a trainer to early childhood professionals, providers, and so I'm already in that mode of coaching and mentoring. So.
All right, so tell us a little bit about, because I don't know much about that side of you. I did notice in your bio that you do have I believe, a master's in early childhood education. So tell us a little bit about that, your career in education, a little bit about what you do, how you came to end up in education.
Yeah, so I started out actually right out of high school. I pursued my degree in computer science. And then, went along with life, got married, had children, and was kind of taking time off from the field and all of those things. So one thing about computer science, if you're not actively involved, it could kind of get away from you. And being that I was becoming more family oriented, I decided to go into the field of education while my children were younger. So, and then from there, I kind of started to, increase my schooling and went back to school later on in life. And then, so from there, I've been doing, child care center director work. I've been doing teaching in the preschool classrooms. And then from there, just kind of breaking into the training field. So now it got me to where I am today with coaching, mentoring, and training, specifically infant toddler teachers.
Infant
and toddler teachers.
Okay, yeah. Well, listen, hats off and kudos to you, because I am also an educator. I don't really say former because I still do stuff in the educational realm. Mm-hmm. But unlike you, I did not have a niche for the preschool and the toddlers. I preferred actually middle school and high school. Right. I loved middle school and high school. So I always give so much respect to those who have the patience. It does require a different level of patience when you have the toddlers and the younger ones. So yes, listen, blessings to you for being able to do that for so many years. So you talked a little bit about mentoring, how you've moved now into more mentoring and training. I know recently I had the privilege of being at your kind of debut, which was called Talk Like a Boss, if I'm correct. Yes. That was the title, correct? And you were able to launch your one of your programs, one of your signature programs under your brand, JacquelineStevens.com. And it is called, and she has on the shirt, Heal, Change, and Grow. So tell me a little bit about that and how that came to be.
Okay, so Heal, Change, Grow was kind of birthed out of my own situation, my own being through trauma and heartbreak and pain and betrayal and rejection. Out of all of those things that I've had to overcome and come through by the grace of God. And so I didn't want to remain stuck in bitterness and anger And from there, I also wanted to be able to empower women, not to remain stuck, because that can easily happen where you just kind of lose yourself.
Yes.
Which I did find that I kind of lost myself. Sometimes I don't even want to refer to losing myself, but just being hidden, because I was so focused on what was happening to me and focused on looking for others to change. And I wasn't changing. I wasn't growing. I wasn't really healing because, to be honest with you, I was just really accepting what was handed to me. Right. Without any clear boundaries, without any stipulations, without anything. I was just kind of on the receiving end of the pain and the trauma and the rejection and the mistreatment and the abuse, the emotional abuse that I was receiving. And so Jackie just kind of was just accepting that, without any, like I said, any boundaries or just feeling like because I'm a Christian, I should endure that type of mistreatment and disgrace and shame and embarrassment all throughout, really throughout the course of my marriage. And I just want to put out a disclaimer. I don't want anyone to feel like I am, shaming anyone. It's just my journey. It's my story.
Yes.
It's how I've overcome, and it's really to help others. As I am still healing, I'm still changing. I'm still growing. And so I didn't. I had made up in my mind that I didn't want to remain stuck in bitterness. I wanted to live.
Yes.
And move forward with my life. So that's kind of how it came about, the Heal, Change, Grow.
Right. So you said so much in there. Let me see, where do I want to begin? First, what rang out as you were speaking, and which is exactly what I was going to say, is that it is your story.
Yeah.
And so I always say that your story is your story. And no matter what the situation is that people go through, when you're going through it, it's your story, and it can be painful. Yeah. It's not a comparison of, well, I went through this and you went through that. It's not quite the same, because when you are experiencing it for yourself, it's a lot, and it could be overwhelming. And so you talked about, heal, change, grow. And then you said, but I'm still healing. Explain that to people, because you have the shirt, you got Heal, Change, Grow, and you're starting this program, but explain how healing is truly a process and doesn't happen overnight.
It does not happen overnight. The trauma, the pain, the heartbreak didn't take place, just like that overnight, or it was a process. It was something that happened over and over, in my case, just repeatedly, and it was a cycle. So I know that, now that I've come to that place where I recognize that I need to heal, and knowing that it's not a destination, it's an ongoing process, because there's still going to be triggers, there's still going to be memories that you have to make peace with, that just doesn't go away. So it's, knowing that I'm just not going to be, completely healed, at the snap of a finger. It's ongoing. It's ongoing. And that's why it's change and grow. It's, healing, changing, and growing goes hand in hand. It's not like you heal and then you change and then you grow. They're all intertwined. Right. And so, your perspective changes on different things. Your mindset changes. The way you relate to people change. You grow from that. You're able now to recognize, like, I can have a conversation with someone or see someone's story and say, wow, I could have easily been that person who's out there saying, horrible things about somebody else just because of what was done to me. And I'm like, that's just not the way. You really need to heal yourself. You really need to look inward. And that's the place where I got to, where I needed to look inward and not focus outward on anyone else, because it is their responsibility to seek their own healing. I can't heal anyone. I can help them in the process, but I can't make them heal if they don't want to. I can't make them, you can't make anyone change if they don't want to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the truth. So I can't remember who I was having a conversation with recently, and I said, oh, I do remember. It was my brother. I said, ultimately, at the end of the day, you can only be responsible for one person, and that's yourself.
Right.
And so the responsibility and the onus is on you to either accept certain things or decide, at some point, what, I no longer like this life. I no longer like to feel this way. I no longer want to be treated this way. And you have to make the conscious decision at that point that you're going to do something to change it. As you were speaking, I actually have a program that is called Successes in Your DNA. And I use something called the GROW model. And it's similar to what you're saying, which is, first, when you're in the midst of something, the first thing is to try to gain understanding. Gaining understanding not only about the situation, but understanding about who you are and how you keep ending up in that situation, or how you ended up in that situation. And that is why people have a difficult time growing, because the first part of it is very introspective. You really have to take a long, hard look at yourself. And there's some things about yourself that you might not want to accept. There's some things that, you might not like. And so you can't begin to heal and change and grow until you first gain that understanding about yourself. And then the other thing, you mentioned, I'm a believer, and I know that your faith got you through. I know your faith got you through. A lot of times when we're hurting, we blame God for some of the things that we did. But the art is recognizing that God is righteous. And he's still in control, even in the midst of our pain. He's still in control. And then being open to new opportunities, which you've done, and then walking in your purpose. And so despite the pain that you've endured, through that pain, you've kind of found your purpose in a new walk. Yes. Yeah,
absolutely. I have. And in order, it was a very, like you said, I had to be introspect. I had to, do some self searching and self-awareness and self-reflection. And that was even a painful process.
It is.
That was, oh my goodness, that broke me, doing that introspection. Like, I instead of being bitter at other people, I became actually angry and bitter at myself. And so that got me into probably being able to even admit that during that time, this was probably a couple months ago, before I even started to launch the brand and to start to, do some things to move forward. I had admitted to myself that I was depressed because, before you were hoping for change, you were hoping for people to change, you were hoping for reconciliation, you were hoping for, people to be delivered, you were hoping for those things. And when your hope is in Christ, that's a great thing. But when you start to do that internal awareness thing, and you realize what you have allowed and accepted, and how you stood in God's way, and how you've even not allowed others to be healed and delivered because you were trying to do God's job, really.
Wow.
And so I think God allowed certain things to happen for me to get to that place where, he kept showing me glimpses like, I could reconcile your marriage. I could deliver your loved ones. I could heal your loved ones. But he needed me to get to that place where my core was strengthened, and I didn't feel like I have to accept anything less than I was worth.
Right.
Because I am his daughter, I am his child, and so he's not going to. I believe that he wasn't pleased with what I was allowing to happen to me. So he had to really allow things to really get ridiculously crazy for me to get to this point where I said, wow, enough is enough. And I had did a live on, I had enough of me. I had enough of me just allowing, mistreatment, because I allowed it to continue. And people don't change really. You're looking for them to change, but you're allowing certain things, so they're not changing, and they're not healing, and you're not healing, and you're not changing, because you're allowing them to continue in their dysfunction. And so in reality, you're continuing in your own dysfunction. So I got to that place where, it was an incident a couple months ago that happened within my marriage, and I came to realize what I was really dealing with, what I was really dealing with all of these years. Like it kind of came full circle, and it smacked me in the face, and that's where I had to say, wow, like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And and like I said, I was really angry and bitter at myself for a good while. And before I did that T-Lab expo, I didn't want to do it because I was still in that place where I was like, I just want to be left alone.
Right.
And I didn't. My self-esteem was really, really low, and I was like, I was even internally calling myself stupid. I know other people were, but I was internally calling myself stupid. And it wasn't a good place to be, but I needed to get there to propel me into, that, healing and to change, and to move forward.
To recognize your worth.
Yeah.
And your value.
Yeah.
Right. And so, that's something that people will often do, when they find themselves in situations where they've allowed themselves to, continuously be abused or accept things that shouldn't be accepted. It's like, well, I was so stupid. I was so dumb. And it really is not, now, of course, it's not about you being stupid or about you being dumb. It's really more about you recognizing your self-worth and understanding the value that is within. And when you begin to understand the value that is within, it strengthens you so that you no longer are willing to accept just anything.
Right.
You're not willing to accept the crumbs.
Right.
You want the whole cake. You don't want just the crumbs. You want everything that you deserve, everything that God has promised you.
Right.
And so even in the marriage, although it may say for better or worse, it shouldn't constantly be for the worse.
Yes, right.
It shouldn't constantly be for the worse. But I just have this feeling in your mind and in your heart, you felt like, well, God would be pleased with me to remain because I'm being faithful and I'm being diligent. Right. And right. And so, and that's a very difficult balance. It's a very difficult balance because of course, we as Christians are supposed to be loving, and we're supposed to be forgiving, and we're supposed to be understanding and patient, and we're supposed to have long suffering, all these things, right? So it comes a point though where you realize this is beyond this. This is just nothing but abuse.
Right.
And this is not what I deserve because God wants more for me and God wants better for me. So it was a process. Can I ask, how long was that? You said you were married for how long?
25 years.
25 years. Wow, that's a long process.
Yeah.
Where was that the situation for 25 years, or did it start later?
Well, seemingly on the outside, and even in my mind, I thought, all along for a long time, for many years, that I thought we had a healthy marriage. But it wasn't until the latter part, like, probably the last 10 years or so, that things started to unfold, and just kind of diminished and went downhill, and became more and more destructive behaviors came to light. And but it wasn't until a few months ago that I realized what was happening all throughout the marriage. Like this was just happening all along.
Wow.
And so even times when I thought we were fine, things were happening behind the scenes. And so it was, so like I said, it all just kind of unfolded a few months ago.
Right.
And this was really when we were actually in the process of, I thought, reconciling, but
Right. Wow.
it was just, it just, things were brought to my attention that just really kind of blew me away. But still, I was trusting God and saying and believing, and really still not having that core strength to say, no,
Right. Enough is enough.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that took a lot of strength and a lot of courage. Especially, I've been married 18 years, so. You put all that energy and you put all that work in, and,
right.
To have to come to that place, 25 years in to say, wow, because, you look back and you're like, wow, was this 25 years wasted?
Yeah.
You begin to question yourself.
Yeah.
But because of the great God that we serve, when we really seek Him, He can begin to heal us, and He can begin to show us even through all of that. Mm-hmm. I've got you. I've been here.
Yeah.
I've been here.
Yeah.
So, wow, that's an amazing story. And, you're still going through the process. So there's so much more that's going to come out of you. And I just see God doing some amazing things through you in terms of what you're going to be able to share with other women, to be able to empower them and to be able to encourage them. I thank you for your bravery to even be able to come on and begin to discuss it. But I have a question for you. You talked about the T-Lab, Talk Like a Boss, and how you didn't want to go, and you were still in this place. But what's happened since then?
Oh my goodness! The moment I actually, Pastor Joy, I have to give her a shout out. I told her that I didn't want to do it, and I didn't want. It took me. She had to actually reach out to me because there was something that was due, and I had missed the deadline, and because in my mind I didn't want to give her an excuse. And I just didn't want to say anything, and I thought it would just kind of blow over and it would just go away, and she would leave me alone, and and she wouldn't let me. She wouldn't let me, and we had like a text conversation, and then she wouldn't let me quit. And when I was done texting her, it was like a shift. It was a shift, and my wheels started spinning. I started thinking about, what I could do and what I needed to do, and I couldn't rest. I couldn't sleep because it was just a complete turnaround right then and there, and I knew that it was God.
Yes.
I knew that it was God, and she said something that resonated with me. She said, I believe that you have to do this now.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It comes a point where it's like it's like in this moment.
Yeah.
You know,
You have to do it now.
You have to do
Yeah.
it. Like this
Yeah.
is a right now
Yeah.
kind of a moment
Yeah.
thing. Like this moment right here. You know, it's so funny. My husband just taped earlier, and he says the decision you make right now can literally change your life.
Right.
And it seems like that is exactly
Yeah.
what was happening.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to point out about that, it is something therapeutic about sharing your story. There is such a weight that is lifted, and it's empowering because see, now no longer can someone hold that over you. Like I know something. Well, guess what? I know it too, and I'm sharing it with the world.
Right.
I'm sharing it with the world.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, because of what I've been through, my story is going to help the next woman. And I'm healing.
Yeah.
I'm healing. So there's always something empowering about telling your story. You know, we don't want to share it.
Right.
We don't want to tell it, but there's something that happens once we begin to share it and once we begin to tell it.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that you were able, you know, that Pastor Joy was able to get you to that point where she was like, no, this is the time and this is the moment for you to share.
Yeah.
So tell us what you have coming up. Any new projects or anything else new you have coming up?
But right now I am working diligently on it's like a devotional / workbook kind of thing. Part of it is really giving tidbits of my story, you know, so that because you know you want people to kind of resonate and relate to you. So I'm giving little tidbits of my story, but in a way that not to belittle other people, but to really show you know what God has brought me through. And so I give like little you know devotional tidbits and share some encouragement with each, you know, like maybe like a 21 day, I think, kind of thing. It's shaping up to be.
Okay.
And then the second part of it is going to be like a Heal, Change, Grow workbook.
Okay.
So they'll have activities to do. They'll have, reflections to do and write about. And then that will help me to formulate some type of a course with women as they go through the journey of healing, of changing and growing, and in like a coaching type scenario. So that's really what I'm working on, and I'm really near completion of the manuscript. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited about that. So, and like you said, it's been so therapeutic just to work on this project.
Right. That's good. That's good. So before we end, anything you want to share, anything that you would like to kind of leave with us that could, help us when we're, in those situations where, we're struggling and, we're down on ourselves, what would you like to share?
I would like to share that it's really important to do that self-check, that self-awareness, to realize what you're worth, to realize your value. And for such a long time, I was really believing what others thought of me. And so I was living in that shadow, like, not recognizing my worth, not recognizing my value, not knowing who I was as a woman, as a child of God, not living, authentically in my purpose and in the way God designed for me to live. So it's important to really take focus off of others and look inside and think about and ask God to fill you and show you what you were created to do, and not just to, part of it is to serve, your life should be to serve others. But if you are just being, mistreated and devalued, all of your life, it's going to take a toll on you. So you need to really turn that around and not focus on, especially others who don't want to, like I said before, heal and change.
Right.
There comes a time where you have to let God handle that and allow God to heal and deliver your heart. And another thing I wanted to share is about forgiveness. I think I've always been an expert at forgiving, but then thinking that that meant you could still be in relationship. You know, maybe you don't need to be in relationship. You have to forgive and you have to, move on. But sometimes you have to do that from afar.
Right.
And,
So
and not
right,
let them
right.
back into your space.
Forgiveness and reconciliation don't necessarily
Right.
have to go hand in
Right.
hand,
Right.
but it is always necessary
Right.
to forgive,
Yeah.
and that's for you so that you can
Right.
heal, change, and grow and move on. So just one or two more things before we wrap it up. So the name, and you've kind of answered it already, but I always like to ask my guests this question. The name of the show is Living in Victory Every Day. So what do you do to try to ensure that no matter what comes your way, that you live in victory every day?
Oh wow, yeah. I think it goes back to what I just really said about recognizing your value, knowing your worth, and knowing that God created you for a purpose, and that you are, you have to speak life to yourself.
Yes.
Speak life to yourself, and know that you have greatness within. Knowing that God has your back, knowing that He never leaves us or forsakes us.
Yes.
He's always there for us. We can live in victory each and every day because we have Him.
Yes.
And so that's one of the things that I think about, the joy that He gives. That the world can't take that away. So it doesn't matter. It's like, as He tells us in His Word, to expect suffering.
Right.
To expect it. And we should be joyful in suffering. And so while you're going through suffering, it's not easy. No one wants to wake up in the morning and say, all right, bring on the suffering.
Right.
But He tells us to expect suffering. Yeah. So just knowing that no matter what comes my way, God is with me. Yes. And God gets the glory, and God, we get the victory because of, and we're better for the suffering that we go through.
Trials and the tribulations.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are. I know that I can say that for sure.
Yeah.
The last 10 years have, really been trying, but I can say that I am definitely better overall,
right.
Closer to God as a result of it, and definitely on a path and a journey that I probably would never have thought or seen
right.
10 years ago had I not gone through some of the trials and the tribulations that I had to go through. So how can people reach you? Give us your social media, email or website.
Okay, so my website is JacquelineStevens.com. From there, there is a link that you can contact me through an email, healchangegrow17@gmail.com. I am on Facebook. My personal page is Jacqueline Stevens. From there, you can connect to my Heal Change Grow page that I have. I have some journals, some videos that are on there that you can take a look at. And then you can also purchase my t-shirts, Heal Change Grow t-shirts that I have available. And like I said, my book will be coming out very, very soon, within the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'm hoping. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. And they'll be able to get the book on the website.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So thank you so much for coming. And like I said, just having the strength and the courage to share your story. I know it's still difficult. I can't imagine how difficult it is, but I do know that we serve a God who does all things well and that allows all things to work together for the good of those that love the Lord. And so, like I said, I'm expecting to see some great things come from you. Can't wait for the book to be released. I have to bring you back on so we can talk a little bit more about the book. But I do thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So as usual, I ask that you like, that you subscribe, and that you share. And once again, I just want to leave these words of encouragement for you. We can live in victory every day because of the God that we serve. We already have the victory. We've all each been created with a plan and a purpose that comes from God. And when we pursue that plan and we pursue His purpose for our lives, we will be sure to succeed. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Living in Victory Every Day.